Welcome to the Marketing and Fundraising for Social Environmental Project Workshop. My name is Yasmin Glanville. I'm the founder of RSI and head of this initiative. One of the things that we often see as a mistake when we're defining or creating or getting a solution funded, it's just either too narrow or too wide, or it's not connected to something that resonates with you, who you want to get funding from or partner with. Who needs to be engaged and for what purpose and why and how? And also, don't just sell something to someone. What are they interested in? Seek to understand. What do they need? What do they want? What are their interests? Also, adapt your message and adapt who you want to communicate with to your audience. So what works for your community? What works for the other communities? And what works for the communities and people that they want to connect with? And be willing to compromise your methods and adapt.
So again, we all have a finite amount of energy, time, and definitely money. And so you really want to make sure you're thinking hard about what message or need you need, and then ranking the priority of how you're going to tackle each of your areas. So your first thing may potentially be policy. You may need to deal with the policy that's hindering your progress. And the first one would be kind of that channel between engagement, so apathetic, versus engaged. And that's really one around, do they care? Do they care about your message? Is it meaningful for them? Because you need to build trust. You need to build understanding, and that's often done through in person. Also, you can do it through partnering with highly respected research groups, academic institutions, other partners that can bring a trust to behind your initiative.
The next one is seed or pilot funding, and these are really for one-time activities or a new idea. Ontario Trillium actually released a seed grant, I believe it was in 2014, really changed how granting happens in Ontario, because most funders actually follow suit to what they do. And so it's meant to test or pilot or research an activity. And it's most often funded by foundations. So Trillium is a foundation that does invest in projects. They take risks in projects, and many private and public foundations now do the same. I would say one of my little tidbits of information, my tips, is that if you're applying for a seed grant, don't apply for everything. Start by taking a piece of your project, call it phase one, and apply for that. And so after you get that and you achieve it, next you can go to phase two. And by going in multiple phases, you can usually accomplish quite a bit over the long term. And the same funder will fund the same project again, because it's a different phase of a broad approach. And what's interesting about some of the public foundations, especially if associated with a company, is that they'll provide their funds as CSR, corporate social responsibility, which I see as a positive marketing effort. And so those ones want recognition. So they will ask you on the application form, exactly how are you going to recognize us? How many hits, how many clicks, how many likes are you going to generate? It's very specific. You'll want to put in a number of things in that proposal, such as, what is the summary of what you're asking for? What's the problem? What are you actually trying to achieve? What are your goals, your objectives? How are you going to achieve that? How do you know you're going to achieve that, right? How do you measure that? What are you going to do after we fund you? We don't want to keep funding you for 1, 2, 3 years as funders. And so what's your plan to be sustainable, to get more money elsewhere? And so to do a needs assessment or to do research when you start is the first step. So having somebody paid, it could be a third party or it could be your own staff, going out there and speaking to folks in Tent City and saying, okay, what happened? Why are you here? What is the challenge? Even if it's obvious, right? Because you might say, oh, of course, it's low income, but no, there might be significantly more challenges, and that has to be documented. And I'm a big believer that if we want to challenge bureaucracy, we have to create bureaucracy, in the sense of reports and documentation. And then you take that, to your town council, city council, you start there. Hey, we've done some research. Please take note.
My name's Tara. I live in Toronto. And I'm just in the process of starting a nonprofit. And our kind of vision for it is to provide mental health and resiliency training in school. So high school is our focus. And we have a few secondary schools that are on board. And we want to start by running it as sort of research, so as a trial to start, so that hopefully we could give funders, some data to entice them. But we're just starting, we're just in the first phases. And I'm just wondering if you have any advice on how to go about getting some funding for something like this.
Step one, Tara, is to, I guess, understand why you're doing this and to document it, right? So there must have been some impetus. Obviously children are really struggling with mental health. We hear it on the news. And why the resiliency training that your organization has proposed is an effective solution. So don't just do good work, be seen doing good work. Document that work, not just from evaluation surveys, but take pictures, what you're allowed to take, set up a bit of a presence online, start showing your broader community that you are doing the work and allow them to see that you're doing that.
So first of all, I am a marketing, fundraising, and communication specialist at a harm reduction organization here in Toronto. And as we know, there's an opioid crisis, homelessness crisis, just a lot of crises. I just want to provide the best strategy. I want to raise the most money for them, program by program, and for the general organization. I don't know anything about grant writing. I've kind of left that to our counselors, but I want to be proactive in finding them the right grants. So I can email them and say, hey, I saw this grant. This is going to be really good. Maybe I can help you start it, or how I gather that information.
Don't be too rigid in your plans and your thinking. Be ready to just take advantage of what comes your way and figure out how to turn it into an advantage. One thing that we hear a lot from potential clients really, as well as funders, is because it's a new idea, like they want to understand it tangibly. So find those concrete examples, those case studies, those testimonials, those partners that are willing to speak for you.
I've worked in the nonprofit space for quite some time, and to have a resource like this for a lot of people who, like, a big thing for nonprofits is getting funding. And I think this event was super important to make ideas into a reality.
We look forward to talking to you all again, and thank you everybody very, very much. Thank you. Big hands.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you. Awesome.